At Christmas Eve brunch, my dad pulled me aside. "Do not embarrass us. No drama." I said, "Copy that." Then my mom giggled loudly. "We did a secret Santa, but we figured you wouldn't mind being skipped." I smiled, quietly slid my gift envelope into my pocket, and sent a single text. Message received. 43 seconds later, everything started falling apart. My brother yelled, "Why would you do this on Christmas?" I said, "No drama. Just boundaries." Then I closed the door. I arrived at the house with a bottle of decent wine, 2 wrapped envelopes, and no illusions. It was Christmas Eve brunch, a tradition that used to mean something. The hallway smelled like cinnamon and artificial fur. The same 12 songs played on loop. Everything looked picture perfect, which should have been my first warning. Picture perfect, not people perfect. The first crack came early. My dad pulled me aside near the back hallway, next to the closet that still holds my old coats no one's thrown out, but everyone ignores. His tone wasn't angry, just clinical. "Don't embarrass us. No drama." I said, "Copy that." Then I went to hang my coat. That's when my mom saw me, smiled like she just remembered I exist, and said loud enough for the table to hear, "We did a secret Santa, but we figured you wouldn't mind being skipped." It landed soft, like a punch with a pillowcase. Everyone giggled, even my niece who's too young to understand what that meant. I smiled, quietly slid my envelope, the one with gift cards for everyone, back into my pocket. And I sent one text. Message received. That was it. No raised voice. No slammed doors. Just a silent acknowledgement that the dynamic hadn't changed. I had. 43 seconds later, everything started falling apart. I hadn't planned it. But the moment I withdrew, the moment I stopped playing my role, the panic began. My brother stood up too fast, sloshed mimosa on the tablecloth. "Why would you do this on Christmas?" I turned to him calmly. "No drama. Just boundaries." Then I walked to the door, pulled it closed behind me, and left them with their picture-perfect scene, unraveling from the inside. Because that's what happens when the infrastructure leaves. They didn't understand yet, but this wasn't a tantrum. It was a systems check, and I had just flipped the first switch. I didn't drive far, just circled the block twice, parked behind the church where they held my 3rd birthday, and let the car idle. That's when it hit me, the sensation I'd forgotten I was capable of. Not anger, not sadness, calculation. I wasn't reacting. I was compiling, sorting memories like files, reviewing footage. And what I saw made everything clearer than it had ever been. This wasn't the first time I'd been skipped. Not the first Christmas. Not the first room they filled before checking if I even had a seat. I remembered last year, the family photo without me. My face literally cropped out for symmetry. The year before, the group gift where everyone pitched in but forgot to ask me. "You weren't in town," they said. I lived 20 minutes away. I remembered my sister's wedding. They gave me the 3rd toast slot, behind the dog. I remembered mom telling people I don't like attention to excuse forgetting my birthday. Twice. I remembered helping them pay off the 2nd mortgage without ever hearing a thank you. Just a text that read, "Funds cleared. We'll handle it from here." I remembered the Thanksgiving I drove 6 hours for, only to find my seat given to a neighbor. "We figured you'd be fine in the kitchen." Every time, the same formula. I gave they took I was excluded, and every time I swallowed it. Bit down, told myself I was being dramatic. Told myself they loved me, just not in the way I needed. But now the mask was off. It wasn't love in the form I needed. It was reliance disguised as affection. The worst part? I trained them to. I made myself available. Helpful. Silent. A convenient son. A dependable brother. The kind of person who shows up early, stays late, and fixes what's broken before anyone realizes it's cracked. And they rewarded me by handing my seat to a stranger. My mom giggled when she said it. "We figured you wouldn't mind being skipped." Because that's how she sees me. An extra. A non-essential. A failsafe. Not the person who's covered 2 emergencies, fixed 4 jobs, and bailed my brother out of more debt than he'll ever admit. They don't hate me. That would require acknowledging me. They tolerate me. Barely. I started thinking in blueprints. What systems were still under my name? What subscriptions? What accounts? What contracts did they build on my infrastructure, assuming I'd keep holding the load without complaint? And the more I thought about it, the clearer the pattern became. The more sinister. Because it wasn't just personal. It was architectural. I was the support beam they stapled Christmas lights to, without ever checking the weight limit. And now that I had stepped away, even for 1 hour, the whole thing groaned. Tilted. Cracks formed instantly. That's how fragile the whole structure was. That's how dependent they'd become. They made me the ghost in the machine, and now that ghost had exited the system. They didn't know it yet, but brunch was the least of their problems. Because I remembered every password, every access point, every favor. And this time, I wasn't deleting the receipts. This wasn't a meltdown. This was a reformation. I got home and plugged in my laptop like a surgeon prepping for a quiet, precise amputation. This wasn't emotion-driven. It was a process of letting go, step by step. Step 1, audit. I opened a spreadsheet and listed every connection point they had to me: financial, digital, infrastructural. Cell by cell, the web unraveled. The joint family phone plan. The Wi-Fi router I installed last year and still paid for. The security system registered under my company account. The thermostat, smart locks, and camera cloud backup, all tied to my enterprise license. The Hulu, Netflix, Prime Video, and Disney Plus, all under my email. My dad's business accounting software. The mortgage I co-signed. The insurance policy I helped draft. The family's cloud storage, password manager, tax filing apps. Mine. All mine. And sitting atop that list like a ticking warhead, the trust fund I created for emergencies. A trust fund they didn't even know I could freeze with one notarized email. Step 2, dismantle. At 5:12 p.m., I revoked access to all streaming platforms. Every profile gone. The one labeled Dad, Big Guy disappeared mid-movie. At 5:30, I logged into the cloud license dashboard. Suspended the device access for all home automation tied to my account. The cameras blinked out. The smart lock defaulted to manual. The thermostat flashed error. At 6:02, I accessed the company admin panel for their accounting software, the same one I'd installed 5 years ago as a favor and maintained ever since. Deactivated the license. Logged out all sessions. Left a polite note on the dashboard. This service was maintained at no cost. Effective immediately, access has been revoked. At 6:34, I submitted the paperwork to remove myself as co-signer from the mortgage refinance. Triggered a reevaluation. Without my credit, the rate would spike. I attached all relevant documentation and marked it urgent. At 6:51, I notified my insurance advisor to remove them as beneficiaries from any private plans. Just in case. At 7:10, I dialed the number of a firm I used to subcontract to, an expensive, meticulous enterprise that handles legacy system replacements for unprepared businesses. Told them to expect a call from my dad within 48 hours. Told them to bill full rate. No discounts. No sympathy. Then I sat back and waited. By 8:03 p.m., the notification started. First, from my sister. Why can't I access the thermostat? I didn't respond. Then from Mom. Did you change the Wi-Fi password? Netflix isn't working. Did something happen to the camera app? I watched the messages pile up. Silent. At 8:27, my dad called. I let it ring. At 8:31, he texted. This is childish. That made me laugh. By 9:02, my phone buzzed with a voicemail from the mortgage lender. They were concerned about the refinance. Asked if I could call back. I didn't. At 9:17 p.m., the Netflix family thread erupted in panic. Did we get hacked? Is the account down? Whose login works? I replied once. Just once. I stepped away, just as you preferred. That was it. No emoji. No explanation. Then I shut off the phone. But I wasn't done. I opened my business client dashboard. Found 2 legacy clients, my parents' friend's dental practice and my uncle's side business. Both were under my enterprise licenses. Both hosted on my infrastructure. Service access was formally concluded. I left another message in their dashboards. This service was provided under a familial courtesy. Access was provided as a personal favor. That arrangement has now ended. By morning, I had 7 voicemails, 12 missed calls, 4 emails, and 1 group text that read, "Why are you doing this?" It's Christmas. Because it's Christmas. Because I brought an envelope with gift cards, and you brought a public reminder that I don't count. Because you wanted a silent benefactor, and you got one. Until now. The final move came at 11:03 a.m. I visited the notary. Froze the trust. Locked it. No disbursements. No exceptions. Not without a hearing. They would have to fight in court to access the emergency fund I created for them. And that's when the real panic began. By lunchtime, the cousin group chat was swarming. Why is your dad freaking out? Aunt Linda said the whole house is cold and dark. Did you cut off their internet? I said nothing. At 1:04 p.m., I received a single message from my mother. "You're destroying the family." I almost responded, "No, I'm just not funding it." But I didn't. I archived it instead. Because this wasn't destruction. This was preservation. For the first time, I was preserving something, myself. They didn't call for 2 days. No screams. No threats. No passive-aggressive paragraphs from my sister. Just a silence so loud it buzzed. Then, 6:14 a.m., third morning. A knock on my apartment door. I didn't answer. Another knock. Louder. Impatient. Then a voice. My mother's. "We need to talk, now." I stood behind the door and let her say every line she had prepared. She wasn't there to apologize. She was there to reclaim control. And when I didn't respond, she dialed her phone right there in the hallway. My voicemail lit up. "You've gone too far. You've hurt your father. Your brother is distraught. Do you even care what you've done to this family?" I didn't respond. 5 minutes later, another knock. This time, my sister. She shouted through the door, "You're blowing up Christmas because you can't handle being background noise for once." I smiled. Because that's what this was, wasn't it? Background noise. I was the static in their holiday, tolerated, never celebrated. I listened as she ranted, then stomped away, probably to compose a message for the family thread. Sure enough, 20 minutes later, group chat lit up. "Dad, this isn't how adults behave." "Mom, we raised you better than this." "Sister, you're acting like a sociopath." "We're family." Family. Then came the guilt barrage. "You've always been different. We tried our best. You're punishing us for things that weren't even intentional." I stared at those words. Weren't even intentional. Like that excused it. Like not meaning to cut someone with a knife made the bleeding irrelevant. At 8:47 a.m., my uncle, the same man who used to pat me on the head and say "attaboy" after I fixed his Wi-Fi, sent this gem. "Whatever grudge you're holding, you're taking it too far. Your mother's been crying for 2 days." The next message, from my dad, didn't even try to hide it. "Turn the system back on. This is simply a final decision I've made for my own peace." I laughed out loud. Not because it was funny, but because he still thought I was code. A switch he could flip. They didn't get it. They thought this was emotional. A tantrum. A meltdown. They didn't understand this wasn't anger. It was quiet resolution. Because I hadn't just walked away. I'd severed every invisible thread that tied them to my silence. And now they were falling. By noon, they started calling other people. My best friend got a Facebook message from my mom. "Do you know what's wrong with him? He's not well. Please talk to him." My ex got a text from my sister. "I know you don't talk anymore, but please, he's spiraling." They were painting me as unstable. Dangerous. Because the son who always said yes had said nothing instead. And in their minds, silence was violence. At 3:14 p.m., another knock on the door. This time, it was my aunt. The one who always wore guilt like a designer scarf. She brought a casserole. Didn't even try to hide the manipulation. "We don't know what's going on," she said. "But this isn't you." She said it like a prayer. Like if she repeated it enough, I'd open the door and everything would snap back to the old rhythm. But I wasn't interested in rhythm. I was interested in distance. And by the time she left the dish on the doorstep and drove away, the panic had turned. By 5 p.m., it wasn't about concern anymore. It was retaliation. A message from Dad. "You're not the only one who knows how to play hardball." A cryptic post from my sister. "Some people act like victims while quietly causing harm and play victim. Just remember that." Then came the digital sabotage attempts. Failed password resets. Fake login alerts. 2 calls from unknown numbers. A warning ping from my bank. They were flailing, desperate to pull me back into the role they needed. The responsible one. The fixer. The codependent provider. I wasn't responding, and they didn't know how to survive without me. At 7:42 p.m., I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Voicemail again. "You're making a big mistake. Think it through," my father's voice growled. "You think you're untouchable, but we know things too." I replayed it twice. The same man who used to introduce me to colleagues as our tech genius was now trying to bluff like a failed mobster. My only thought was, they really don't understand what silence means to me. Because I wasn't trying to win. I was done playing. At 8:06 p.m., my sister uploaded an Instagram story. Our baby photo, both of us in matching Christmas sweaters. The caption? "Some people forget where they came from. But blood remembers." It got 34 likes in the first hour, mostly extended family, church friends, a few of her yoga clients. At 8:14, I texted a screenshot of it to my cousin Ellie. She replied in 60 seconds. They're spiraling. Stay quiet. It's killing them. She was right. And then, the mask fully cracked. At 8:32 p.m., an anonymous email hit my work inbox. Subject, concerns about John. Inside, a badly formatted accusation claiming I had misused admin access to retaliate against my own family, potentially compromising client data. No evidence, just insinuation, a clumsy attempt to shake my foundation. I laughed. Quiet low? Then forwarded it to our compliance officer, along with screenshots of the family meltdown and the voicemail threats. By 9 p.m., legal had already flagged it as non-credible, retaliatory, and personal in nature. No internal action warranted. But that wasn't the point. The point was, they tried. They tried to dismantle me because they couldn't control me. At 9:17 p.m., one more ping. This time from the mortgage lender. Their message was clinical. Due to co-signer withdrawal, your refinance agreement must be restructured. You may be at risk of default without a qualifying guarantor. The irony? They hadn't even read the email chain. They thought removing me would be as easy as uninviting me from a dinner table. Now the payments had doubled. And still, no apology. Not even a hollow one. Only escalation. That night, I sat at my desk with a mug of untouched tea and a folder of screenshots. My cousin Ellie was texting me updates from the extended family group thread. Your dad's blaming the whole thing on stress. Your mom's saying you always wanted to break away, and now you finally have your excuse. Your sister said you've been unstable since college. She's bringing up stuff from 10 years ago. The desperation stank. At 10:14 p.m., the last message came in. From my mom. No greeting. No context. Just, you left us with nothing. I stared at it. Not because it hurt, but because she really believed it. That I was nothing until I was giving. That silence was an attack. That distance was betrayal. I typed 2 words back. I simply stepped away from what wasn't mine to carry anymore. Then I blocked her. Not out of rage. Not to make a statement. But because she'd said the one thing that proved everything I needed to know. She didn't miss me. She missed the system I provided. The buffer. The bailouts. The bandwidth. They didn't lose me as a person, just the stability I used to provide. And now, for the first time, they had to sit in a house they couldn't heat, with locks they couldn't reset, a loan they couldn't carry, and a legacy they couldn't spin. And I, finally, had peace. Not the fragile, fake kind wrapped in family photos and gaslit forgiveness, but real, irreversible peace. The kind you only get when you stop fixing what was designed to fail. It started with one upload. No caption, no hashtags, no plea for validation, just a screenshot. From Mom. You left us with nothing. No commentary, no filter, just the raw data. Then, in sequence, a carousel of facts. Frame 1, the mortgage restructure email. Frame 2, the streaming service cancellation notices. All 4. You've been removed from this account. Frame 3, the thermostat error screen, glowing blue and locked. Frame 4, voicemail transcript. You've gone too far. You've hurt your father. Your brother is distraught. Do you even care what you've done to this family? Frame 5, my reply, from Christmas Eve. Message received. No emojis. No threats. Just documentation. I posted it to a private feed shared with 24 trusted people. Colleagues, business partners, cousins, one reporter I knew from a startup launch years ago, and my lawyer. Within the first 30 minutes, people had reshared it to locked forums. By morning, I had 9 DMs. Most were some variation of, wait, you paid for everything. That explains why nothing ever added up. They made it sound like you'd lost your mind. By noon, my cousin Ellie sent me a screenshot from the extended family thread. My sister was panicking. He's trying to ruin our name. This is cyberbullying. We didn't do anything wrong. That last one made me pause. Because that was the problem, wasn't it? In their world, taking from me wasn't wrong. Using me wasn't cruel. It was convenient. They assumed silence meant consent. That my absence of protest was permission. It wasn't. It was grief. Recycled over years. And now I was done grieving. Now, I was archiving. My cousin Caleb messaged next. Bro, I always thought your dad was overbearing. I didn't know it went this deep. Then came a message from one of my old mentors. Proud of you. Quiet men often carry the most weight. Glad to see you drop theirs. And then, out of nowhere, My college roommate's wife, someone I hadn't seen in a decade, shared the post with the note. Every family has a version of this. Maybe not as extreme. But the silence, the roles, the invisible debt. I see you. That one hit hardest. Because she was right. This wasn't just about me. This was about every quiet son. Every daughter who got called cold for protecting herself. Every sibling who was tolerated when convenient and erased when not. At 2:34 p.m., my dad's receptionist emailed me directly. Hi, sorry to reach out like this, but we can't access the firm's files. No one knows the admin passwords. Mr. Harris said you set up the system. I responded, correct. I also funded it. As of this week, courtesy has expired. She replied once. Understood. But I heard through Ellie that my father was livid. Apparently, he flipped a table during an all-hands meeting and shouted something about ungrateful children and betrayal. He didn't mention the unpaid licenses, or the fact that the entire server stack ran through my business account, or the years I patched, upgraded, and secured everything for free. At 5:01 p.m., my mom posted a message on Facebook. Family is hard. The holidays are emotional. But forgiveness is sacred. We choose love. Hundreds of likes. Heart emojis. Comments from church friends and old neighbors. But the first comment beneath it was the earthquake. From Grandpa Joe. You ignored him until he left. Now you want what he gave. You don't miss your son. You miss the system. Sit with that. It got more likes than her post in less than an hour. And then the message requests started flowing in from people I didn't expect. My high school English teacher. A former client who'd been referred to my parents' firm. A neighbor who used to wave but never speak. Each one said some version of, I saw. I believe you. Thank you. By 6:40 p.m., I was no longer a whisper. I was the shift. At 7 p.m., my company's internal Slack lit up. A teammate linked the thread and said, Hey, I think this is John's family. If so, oh God. Absolute masterclass in boundaries. Another replied, Can we promote him again? Just for this. I didn't say anything. Didn't need to. I was no longer the ghost in their machine. I was now a mirror they couldn't look away from. At 9:17 p.m., one more thing happened. A journalist I'd worked with years ago at a tech ethics panel messaged me. Saw the thread. It's blowing up in closed circles. People want to talk to you. But I won't publish a word unless you say so. I thanked her. Said no for now. Because this wasn't about revenge. This was about the quiet reckoning that happens when the infrastructure collapses. Not with a bang, but with the simple decision. No more. They built a lie. All I did was show the receipts. And for once, they couldn't say I overreacted. Because I didn't react at all. I just let them experience the silence they spent years pretending didn't hurt.